Are you sure? Yeah.
Yes, here we are. Here we are again. Becker Facebook Live family. So we got week 56 going on right now. 55, yes, 55. So week 55 is going on. We've got 3 beautiful Chardonnays. So we got our 2017, 2018, and 2019 vintages of Chardonnay, which we're actually going to be tasting in reverse order. So we're going to be doing tasting from 2019 down to 2017. So we're going to start with our 2019 Reserve Chardonnay, and then enjoy our 2018 Reserve Chardonnay, and then the 2017. So I'd love to introduce the panel today. We've got our owners and proprietors, the Dr. Richard Becker and Dr. Joseph Becker. We have our winemaker, Jonathan Leahy, and then we have our assistant winemaker, Rachel Fanning, and then myself, Bobby Totten, the assistant tasting coordinator here. And we are ready to jump right into these beautiful wines. So before that, I'm just gonna hand it on over and have y'all kind of to the panel. So
sounds perfect, Bobby. Thanks for another wonderful introduction. I'm trying to get the comments to come up on Facebook, and they just popped up. So I'm like, ah. So Joe, Doc, would you care to introduce week 55? Isn't it 55?
Well, but like we both will. But no, we're not forgetting that we're in the 55th week of a terrible pandemic. Still, thousands of people dying in the United States and around the world. And so this is not the time to back away from all the things we're doing to hopefully make this thing go back to hell where it came from, which is where I'd like for it to go. But it's another week to think about masks and social distancing and hygiene and trying to get as many people vaccinated as we possibly can. That's what will end this. So anyway, just to, again, a tribute, and Joe does this better than I, to all the people fighting this battle with us and for us. Joe, please.
No, I would just say I was thinking that we're still all in this together, and it's always wonderful to share a glass of wine, to step back from this, and just really to also think about everyone out there, and To Kill a Mockingbird. They talk about walking a mile in someone else's shoes, and I think just having a glass of wine, being with everyone, thinking about others, having conversation with other people, and hoping to have some respite from what's going on in the world right now.
And also, we're out on the fire escape in New York, and here's a toast to everyone on this screen who made this wonderful wine. And thank you is what I say. Let's taste it. This Chardonnay like this from Texas, I think, is rare. It's just great to see it.
Rachel, you have to lead off on the 19.
Do I?
Yes, you do.
So it's actually, I'm glad you just said that, Doc, about Chardonnays in Texas and being rare. Bobby, were you the one who asked me earlier how many wineries in Texas produce a Chardonnay? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how many growers are growing Chardonnays, but I know it's just not so long, just a couple of weeks ago, that I was just telling John that I think, no disparity to anybody else, I think of the Texas Chardonnay growers, we hands down have what I think are the 2 best Chardonnay growers in the state.
Yep.
I mean, we've been producing beautiful wines off their beautiful fruit year after year.
Oh, I agree. And so because you're not going to toot your own horn, so Rachel is primarily responsible for the 19 and the 18, and that's why I want you to lead off on your tasting notes and tell us a little bit about how you made this beautiful wine, Rachel.
Will do.
Yep.
Tell you what, the 19 was a big year for us. 19 was talking about all the weather spectrums. I mean, we hit everything across the board. But I think by the time the harvest came in, the Chardonnay typically comes in towards the beginning of August. It's an early one for us. This is off the Drew Talent Vineyard in Mason County, Texas. I think by 2019, these vines may be 7, no more than 8 years old, I believe. So relatively not new. I know that it is the, what's the clone? The 75. Doc, you may have to help me out with the name of the clone. Something 75. Um,
96, maybe. 79 and 99, the Dijon clones.
yes, the Dijon.
Yeah, 'cause it's
I
not
started
set
to
up.
say Dijon being mustard, but not mustard.
Yeah.
Yes, Dijon, and I thought that maybe 96. I thought it was 75. We'll get back to it. I have it in the notes somewhere. And so the grapes came in August, beautifully hot, like wonderfully hot, which I think is one of the first reasons you wouldn't grow Chardonnay in Texas, because it's so amazingly hot when we're harvesting these. But I know, talking to Drew, the reasons that he chose that particular clone was because of its tenacity to withstand the Texas heat and to ripen so wonderfully, and not, it tends to resist the sunburn as long as it has a great grower like Drew is to manage the canopy and handle the ripeness on it. And fruit came in right around 25 and a half, probably getting close to 26, but definitely 25 and a half bricks. We fermented all of it, primary and malolactic, in 100% French oak barrels. I have my notes here in front of me, so 30% new. The rest of it was somewhere between 1 and 3-year-old oak.
Yeah, no, and I remember when we were sampling that too, Rachel, that, rocking up and down those rows, and how many beautiful sweet berries there were, but that overwhelming, delicious, almost cola edge to those berries when they were, that it was fantastic.
It's funny to think of the cola edge on a white grape, right?
Well,
not something that always.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe there's a better term than the cola edge, but
I think that's right on.
But I loved that herbaceousness and that almost not mentholated edge, but was more like pure cola.
I'd be curious to hear from both Rachel and Jon, because these are I feel like exceptional Chardonnays. I'm not biased or anything, but I'd be curious to hear what style of, or either California or Burgundian, what are the stylistic qualities you're getting in these wines, not beyond what tasting, but just what you would say it's similar to.
I'd definitely say that it's a Texas style. How about you, Rachel?
I think that 100%.
God bless. I have to be careful when I ask you questions.
So,
Yeah,
that's a very good question, Joe.
go ahead.
No, I to be honest with you, I think the 19 is actually New World. I really do. It's wonderful. It's got great herbal notes, but it's got some beautifully light, fresh fruit to it. We had, and Rachel, we had 3 very good years in a row with Chardonnay, 17, 18, and 19.
Or even 16.
Yeah, well, yeah, 16 was outstanding, but I mean, just these 3 together, you couldn't ask for. I mean, 17 still stands out as the best vintage, of the decade at least. But that 19. So, do you remember the yeast you used? No.
Actually, if I think about it real hard, I bet it was probably the Lafleur X5.
The X5. Did you use the Q23 that was that 18 that we did that? 18? Okay. Like, nobody knows what I'm talking about. I understand. I don't mean to confuse everybody. Just the name of the yeast.
It sounds like an audible, John, with the Cowboys playing.
Yeah. Well, hey, we are in Texas, and in order,
Right.
God, guns, and football.
Can I back up a second? I know we have a very, very knowledgeable, we're lucky to have a very knowledgeable audience listening to this, but Rachel or Jon, just for people that may be just joining us, could you all talk about why you might think this is more New World and old? Because if anybody's ever heard of wine tasting with Guy Stout, he always does a nice job of talking through New World, Old World, that sort of thing.
Rachel has either agreed or disagreed with me about style, and I'd like her to speak to that, because
Sure.
What she feels first, and then
I 100% agree with you that it's Texas. I think it is a little bit hard to put it in an either or category. And I am really guilty of this, and I need to rethink my words and my thinking about whenever I think about a Burgundian wine, that it is not so laden with Brettanomyces and has so much of that Brettanomyces. No, because there are some beautiful, beautiful wines that come out of it that are not so barnyardy and all these other things that we not so lovingly described them with, even though they're loved ones. Anyway,
Right.
say I think that there are parts of it that all of these wines, all three of them, encapsulate some of this and that. Like John was saying, they have some really beautiful fruit notes. It has some other very yummy edges that go along with it. Like I said, the herbaceousness, the mintiness, I think the oak aging on it has a lot to do with kind of straddling the fence between the two classes or two styles. No?
Yeah, I do. We yanked the 19 out of barrel earlier than we had the 18 or the 17.
Really?
No one's bitter or anything about that.
Not very long in barrel?
Very well. I know, but no, I mean, and to its point, I think it's got that alone takes, you do get some of those toasted notes, but I do think that we've got a little more of the fresh fruit. It's also younger. It's the youngest one of the three lineups. So has nothing, it's not indicative. I don't think it's indicative of whether it ages well or not. I think just as of now, it reminds me more of a New World, just from that fruit forward edge.
It depends on the New World. I mean, I have to say the two best Chardonnays I've ever tasted were a Le Montrachet from '89, and then I've tasted some older ones, and Kistler from '89, and interestingly, if you go back and taste and this was tasting them after 15 or 20 years of production. If you taste it the first year they're released, they generally spend about 2 years in oak, or 1 to 2 years in oak. The French wine, in its youth, has very muted fruit. It has a lot of vanilla. It has a lot of barrel character, and you think this will never be a great wine. I mean, it's just, why would anybody pay $300 for this bottle of wine? The Kistler, on the other hand, in its youth, always had very bright fruit. Yes. But they both aged to a very similar point, which was just a dramatic aromatic of lime blossom and citrus and just beautiful fruit delicate fruit on the palate. But they came from different places, and I was about to say, as a young wine, this tastes more European than California to me. I don't think that the New World lives in California for Chardonnay, really, but there may be. But that's my benchmark.
I'm sorry, you said you thought what about the New World Chardonnay that was oaky?
No, but the fruit is always much more forward,
Right.
And it was very muted in a young. If you buy a beautiful white Burgundy and open it the minute it's released, after 2 years, it's just, it's like, why? Where's this going? But it will show you if you're patient, and I think that's going to happen with this wine.
Oh, I think it'll age very well. I just, you mentioned Kistler, and I thought 92 and 97 in Kistler were both very, very, very good Chardonnay. I did not have the benefit of having the 89. I don't think I was allowed to drink back then. I'm not sure.
Neither was I.
Yeah.
Was that prohibition? Yeah.
That was pre-prohibition, Joe. We're talking 1889.
No. 1889, yeah.
I always found Kistler to be very, very floral when it's young.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt y'all really quick and remind you that maybe not everybody knows what Kistler, everything that you're talking about, they might not know what these are.
That's true, and thank you for doing that. And now that we've had our let's geek out on our favorite wine moment, well, Kistler is a Sonoma County producer, makes beautiful white wines. I've had the benefit, just by dint of living almost next door to them. It was a wine that I was able to get a hold of. Just a great example of what can happen in a climate, the Northern California climate, for white wine. It is a good example of Chardonnay. A lot of California Chardonnays got dented by everybody thinking they were always going to be a butter slathered oak 2x4, the way they were being made there for a few years.
Right.
There were several producers who held true to the varietal and true to that, and basically we're using that as a standard to explain varietally correct or true to what a good Chardonnay would be. That by comparing that we're letting you know that we believe that this is a good example of a true varietally characteristically correct wine, a Chardonnay that's going to age very well. And so before we go any further, Rachel, I'm tipples to you. That beautiful job. And don't let any of the guys tell you that I snuck in behind you and added a different yeast. It's not true.
No, thank you. Thank you. So like, I'm really so excited. And like you said, we've had last several vintages of our Chardonnays have been just absolutely beautiful. And I'm so glad to be a part of it and have my fingers in these two little wines.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. So Bobby, we don't mean to leave you out of the conversation.
Oh, no.
So you also have, and most people probably don't know after joining just a short period of time, but Bobby's got an excellent palate, and Bobby has taken a lot of time to train that palate, and he does a great job taking care of our guests. So if you are fortunate enough to come to the
Here,
wine,
here.
Absolutely.
make sure you get Bobby to talk to you. He's the guy that looks like a bandit. He's got a mask up around his face. So Bobby, what do you think? What's your impression of the 19 so far?
So this is the first day that I'm trying the 19.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is just really beautiful.
Yeah, it's because we haven't released it yet. The people joining us who bought the packs are the only ones that have this wine. So
Right. Yeah, I mean the floral nose. It's just gorgeous. Get that kind of orange blossom characteristic on the nose, a little bit of vanilla. Definitely get that French oak kind of peering out, because it being at that younger wine, that oak is a little bit more prevalent right there.
yeah.
So just while we're tasting for a second, I just have to bring up the fact, I don't know if I have any aunts or uncles or brother that's watching right now, but and for me, Kistler was probably the first wine that I got to stick my finger in and taste, because it was the post tennis wine in our family. We had a hot tub that Dad, his brother, my brother, and I would relax in after a tennis match, and maybe get the tennis scores a little wrong, but yeah, we called it the Bubba Club. But that's where Kistler is significant to me.
That is so cool.
That's awesome.
Susan, this shout out to you too. And yes, when you come here in October for the Food Wine Festival, make sure that you get to meet us all to the point where you're like, I can't believe those people are talking to me. So Doc, Joe, back to you guys. Impressions of the wine itself, but not stylistically, just the wine. What do you think?
Great balance for me. Great balance of fruit and minerality. Nice. I think there's a little bit of a nice floral note starting to develop on the nose.
Right.
How much malolactic, John? 100% malolactic, or Rachel?
Yes.
Good.
Yep.
So all that's here. Knowing how great these next two wines, the 18 and the 17, are, this is going to be special.
I agree.
In about 4 or 5 years, and I think it's got everything. It's all packed up for the trip, and it's going to be fun.
Oh, I agree. I think it will be.
Quick question on this.
Yes.
Is this on Surly?
It
Is
was,
this aged Surly?
It was, I don't think we racked it one time. I think it aged for the last 2 years on service.
Yeah, we really don't rack that much, Bobby. I mean, there are a few wines that get racked a few times because of what we're doing, but honestly, with the Chardonnay and stuff, now we leave it alone. This lees give the best protection to a wine. If they're healthy, they give some of the best protection to the wine, and keeping them on there the length of its age and barrel is probably the best thing you can do.
Awesome.
So, but
The only thing
sorry.
The only thing that stirred the leaves was my thief trying to get another sample to
Yeah, exactly. Well put. But I was just going to say that, there are quite a few of our colleagues, Rachel, that like to rack multiple times and get everything uber clarified. So by all means, continue. You do a wonderful job with that. And everybody needs an example of what overprocessed wine tastes like. So what? What's that mean?
Also, I would just say that just the way this evolves in the glass in the last 30 minutes will tell you what it's going to do in the bottle. And you can see the fruit just becoming beautiful in this. It's going to be fun.
Hey, Joe, I don't want to make anybody jealous, but there's a absolutely gorgeous lady called Carolyn Becker Callahan that just said, yes, Joe, a memorable tasting at Kistler in those days.
I think Joe and his cousin got in the cellar without my knowing about it. Said, all you do is stick your finger in this.
Yeah. Well, cousin getting into your cellar without you knowing about it, really?
And then you just shut the cork back in.
They'll never know the difference.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, oxide, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, you're in good company. When I was in junior high, I stole 2 of my dad's bottles of 76 ice wine. So,
He missed those, I can tell you.
oh, yes, he did. Okay, so Rachel, would you like to add any further comments to the 19 before we continue with this wonderful journey?
I don't know off the top of my head. I am, like the doc said, that I'm looking forward to letting it age a little bit in bottle and seeing how it grows up a little bit more.
Yeah. I agree. Okay, I'm not getting any, Trish says kudos, Rachel. I couldn't agree more. So now let's go on to the 18, where the only thing that I want to hear from people is how bad it is and how bad a job Rachel did. So bring it.
It's on.
Yeah. So 18, let's give it a swirl, sniff, and a taste. Oh my God, Rachel, this is beautiful.
Oh my God, I got witnesses.
I know. Right?
This is being recorded.
What? I don't know what I'm saying. I'm obviously delusional.
Alcohol, right? I mean,
That comes drunk love.
No, I think it's a TIA. I keep smelling
Love the
beautiful.
color on this wine too.
Oh yeah.
oh yeah.
So this has been in bottle for a little bit, and this is in the last 6-8 months. This has changed for a better in bottle. It has really starting to come into its own.
Yeah.
And I feel like this more than the 19, just to Dad's point, I really feel like it's starting to express more of its fruit note.
Yeah.
It's coming out beautifully.
Well, I guess on those on those parameters, we would have to say that this is definitely much more of an old world edge to it.
I would say so.
They all do, John. I mean, they all, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it's bad habits from a misspent youth, Doc. I apologize. So, Rachel, we'll start with you again. Would you run us through the technical edge of the 18?
Absolutely. So again, Drew Talent. Clearly we're gonna back up here, and this one's not 7 or 8 year old vines. They're now 6 or 7 year old vines. And pretty much the same process, except for what you said, John. As far as the yeast, I think you're right on that. I did use the QA23 and malolactic, and they were pretty sure they went through malolactic and primary fermentations together simultaneously. French oak, per my notes, because I can't remember anything these days without notebooks, we are looking at 100% French oak, 50% new this year. 50% new, and the other ones were, 1 to no more than 3 years old after that. What else to say? I'm not gonna lie, I'm really, really excited about this one. And I think for my introductory, very first Chardonnay that I've ever made on my own, I'm really stinking excited and proud about this.
You should be. Absolutely. Absolutely. Someday you too will be a winemaker, Padawan. No.
So we kind of answered on our end, but I would be curious in reference to the last wine, what John and Rachel really feel like is one of the great inspirational Chardonnays that they've had that's kind of inspired them.
Don?
Well, I don't know about you, but I think it's Gallows Mountain Burgundy, white Burgundy, the 3-liter box. No,
It's a red wine, Joe. It's a red wine.
Oh, is that red? Really? I couldn't tell.
Not a Chablis.
No, not Sauvignon Blanc, buddy.
Right.
Well, Rachel, Chardonnays that have inspired you?
I know this is going to sound like the most brown-nosing statement in the whole wide world, but if I said that there was a recent Chardonnay that's inspired me to continue to make great Chardonnays, it's going to be the 2017 Chardonnay Reserve.
Oh.
No, you
I
still
know
have to work
I'm
tomorrow.
heading it up with it. Great pathway to go.
I'm gonna, yes, I do like Kistler, and yes, it's wonderful, and but I'm gonna go with two of my favorites. One is Consgard Chardonnay. It's a very small producer, and I always liked not just the wine but the philosophy behind it. And then Jed Steele was Steele Wines. Always made excellent Chardonnay. He made excellent Chardonnay when he was a winemaker for KJ, and he continued to make excellent Chardonnay when he went off on his own and had his own brand. So as New World as that goes, I think those two are the ones that I really like the most.
John, I think no one extracts fruit like you do, period. And what do you understand about, I'm asking because I don't know the answer, the fruit extraction in using, say it in a winery in Burgundy, versus fruit extraction in California versus fruit extraction in Texas. Mm-hmm. Is that too vague a question?
No, it's not, because I was fortunate enough. So I've never made wine in Burgundy, obviously, and I'm not going to pretend that I have. However, I was extraordinarily fortunate enough that, are you familiar with the producer Dujac out of Burgundy?
Sure.
Yeah, so his son's wife was a client of mine in California, and Diana Snowden, Seiss, of course, is the last name of the French family, but I get, what is that, Seiss Nee Snowden? I can't remember the proper way of saying that, but anyway, I'm sure Emily Post will rack my knuckles later. The idea, from talking to Jeremy, the son, and what they did is they would acidulate their wines down to like 3.2, 3.3, let them sit, and then for almost a year, and then they would deacidulate just enough that it would kick off the MLF in the barrel. And I always found that very interesting. We tried a few experiments with that, and that's a lot of work, but they do not like oxygen interplay at the time of pressing. And when they're pressing that fruit, they try to keep it as an oxygen-free environment or as possible. And as Rachel knows, we do the exact opposite.
Really?
Yes. And we like that browning and the pinking to get the hell out of the juice right away. And when you see that Chardonnay juice coming off of our press, it looks dark brown. Yeah, like brewed tea. And everybody's like, is that what kind of wine is that? And I'm like, it's going to be the most golden rich Chardonnay you've ever had in your lifetime. This wine that you see right here was as muddy brown as the Brazos River after a rainstorm. Not lying. That's how it comes out of the press. It protects it, and then temperature, and then keeping it in a reduced atmosphere as long as possible helps. Keeping it on its leaves. It's everything that we do from time forward. And it will make Rachel and I look like schizophrenic fools during harvest. Like, we're like, no, do it this way. No, do it that way. Now go back to there. Now switch it over to here suddenly. No, raise it 5 degrees, lower it 8 degrees, and we have to give credit to Juan and Eddie and Daryl and Dylan and the guys in the back. They put up with this, and they're just like, they shake their head and they're like, you need to stop drugs.
So John, let me just ask, does that lack of or oxygen exposure, is that have to do with, is that just a stylistic difference, or is that something you can do if you have a cooler, consistent growing season like they do in Burgundy, or is that?
Yeah. It's they do have a cooler, consistent growing season, and they get a phenolic development that's slightly different, certainly. And they, when you're harvesting late in the fall and cooler and cooler and longer. You get a lot more richer development. That was one producer. They don't all do the same way, and they may have changed, but it was a delight to be able to work with and listen to somebody with that much expertise on their white wines. They're also aging, in barrels. They keep barrels for 15 years. So they're getting a lot of neutral wood in there. I really truly believe newer wood is important to help with floral development. It helps protect. Those tannins get together. They form a nice protective barrier. They allow those terpenes to come out later. I really think that that's important. As far as us in the oxygen and the brown juice, do you remember this little winery back in the early 70s made a Chardonnay in 1974? It started to turn pink in the bottle and they thought they ruined it, and then they sent
Never
it
heard of it.
So apparently you can avoid that. That was led directly to an experiment that found that by allowing it to oxidate a little bit in the press and stuff, you avoid that pinking issue, which apparently does a lot on the brown edges too, and comes out with a really nice, clear, non-oxidative meniscus. If you hold this down, you'll see it very clear on the meniscus against white paper. That means it's not oxidative at all. And the fruit's there to tell the story. And Rachel is there she guided this through, and another home run, Rachel. I actually, quite frankly, I think you had a triple play, but so you got everybody across the base, and this is a winner.
It's great.
Yeah.
John, your point about acidulating the wine, as you know, speaks to me. Is this acid enough, Rachel? Could this be more acidic? Are you happy with where this is?
Yeah, I'm happy.
That was my
Not a
guess.
loaded question at all.
Okay.
Doc, sometimes we need a little balance. We can't just go all the way to Jolly Rancher land.
I want to go all the way to Le Montrachet land. That's where I'm headed. So,
Right. Well, if you'd let us keep it in the barrel for 2.5 years like we should, then I think a little more acid might not be a bad idea.
And then the cold weather, cold climates. So with the mention of the different yeasts that you're using, that y'all were mentioning, so do those different yeast strains bring out different flavor profiles that you're wanting to accentuate in each individual wine?
Oh yes, and that's why yeah.
I mean, that's what they did us on the dollar square, but no, I think so, John, right? And you would agree. It's
I would
actually
wholeheartedly agree. Yeah.
Is to, go through the yeast and look for the styles of the wines that we're trying to make and what we're trying to promote out of one versus, highlight out of another, and pair it with the yeast and try to get the best results.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think, even like dividing the lots and using several different yeasts on the exact same grapes, and then treating them the same way, barrel wise, aging wise, then you really do get to see what the yeast adds to it. And it is a bit like going into a candy store at harvest time when we decide which yeast that we're going to start using for the year. We have found a couple of them that do great job. We've had a couple of years where we found a couple of yeasts that were like, why? So, then you have to also be careful too. The health, not just the health of the yeast, but what are the parameters of that yeast? How easily is it going to stick a ferment? I mean, is it a very delicate yeast? Is it a heavy feeder? There are a lot of things, and we've got potassium issues here in our grapes that we have to worry about, and we've got to worry about the creating a feeding frenzy during fermentation that will be an incomplete ferment. You want a nice steady ferment, not this sudden burst. We've had a couple that we've started the fermentation the morning before, and the next day we come back and Rachel walks into my office and goes, 15 and a half bricks overnight, which means that it's half its sugar overnight. Okay, here we go. So, yeah.
Bobby, we haven't heard from you on this wine. I'd be curious what you're tasting.
So I'm getting some bright, almost like a lemon citrus, like a lemon characteristic on the.
Bingo. Yes. Yeah. Well said.
while you're taking a sip, I'm gonna put words in your thought, because one of the things that I always get off of these is yellow apple. Like to me, it's always yellow apple with some kind of a citrus, like zest, whether it's lime or lemon.
So can you name the three primary yellow apple varietals?
Oh,
Now Fuji is one of them, isn't it? Or
I'm sorry?
Fuji?
No, Fuji's not a yellow apple.
Fuji's not yellow.
It's okay.
Yeah.
yellow, and yellowish.
You know, Bobby, when he asked that question, you could just do what he does and just go, yes.
Or you could look at me and say, really, only three? And then I'll be like, I don't know, I just made that up.
How about golden delicious, John?
Yes, sir.
And delicious.
Then the American, starts with American.
I don't know what.
American Pippin.
Huh.
It's the basis of like 100 different varietals. Rachel's like, we're not here talking apples. Like comparing apples to grapes.
Like a yellow apple out of something.
Well, it adds to the descriptors.
And actually, this was your field, Bobby. You go.
Mhm. Bobby.
Yeah. So I definitely get that lemon right at the front, but then I get a little bit of like a toasted marshmallow almost on the finish.
I like that.
So question for you, Rachel. So the question is, so when the yeast goes wrong, what do you do?
You know, from a like lab standpoint, science kind of like yeast is only going to do what yeast does
Mhm.
every time. It's going to consume the sugar and it's going to have byproducts, and that's going to be the alcohol and whatever phenolic and aromatic outputs it also has. It's not necessarily wrong. It's just maybe something that John and I get to play with later on and decide what we like and what we don't like. But yeah, the yeast is going to do what the yeast does every single time.
I think the only thing that goes in my mind when it goes wrong with me is it's stuck. It's like it went dormant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like apparently the osmotic pressure got too much for it and it just decided to sink to the bottom. So
And then we start again.
yeah,
Do it again.
hopefully that doesn't happen very often. I hate restarting stuck ferments.
Me too.
Yeah, it's a pain in the neck for sure. Okay, Doc, Joe, impressions of the 18. Have you given all of yours?
Let's see. Yeah, let's see. The pH, though, seriously, Rachel, what is the pH of this wine?
You know, I just happen to know offhand that the pH on both the 19 and the 18 is 3.55. So that was kind of odd that we landed at the same place. In 2017, I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to research way back. But I just happen to know those two were 3.55. So you're looking.
I'm just curious, you know, we're going to move to a different vineyard here in a second. Do you find much difference in acidity between Drew's vineyard and Mrs. Canada's vineyard in terms of Chardonnay?
No, actually,
Okay.
off the top of my head, though, as far as the way the fruit comes in, I want to say actually their bricks are probably real in line. Their pHs are fairly similar. Their acidity level, the tetrate is pretty close. I would say, and I don't know if you guys know what the clone of Chardonnays that Miss Canada is
I'm
using.
gonna ask that too. I don't.
I will have to find out.
Yeah, I don't think we know what the older block is at all. Yeah.
I don't know that anybody does.
Right.
But they're very different Chardonnays. I think just as their flavor profiles are so wildly different. But it's definitely a fun thing to bring into the winery and see all the goods we got.
The other thing I want to say is, the trying to establish Texas wine on the world stage. We've tried to take advantage of San Francisco wine competition and other real competitions where the wines are judged blind in a field of maybe 100 other wines from all over the country, all over the world. So it's sort of like the Paris tasting every year. And how's the 18 done in I don't know, in one competition?
We just sent it out this year, so
Okay.
it has yet to score. The competitions are coming up, so just getting to the point where we're getting ready to release this. So we just started sending it out. It's been in bottle for a while, so we'll start sending it out. We did send it to Texom this year, which is always the lead off of the
Right.
season. So we'll see how it does.
I think it's going to do well.
I think it'll do very well.
It's a great one. Yeah, right. It's great. Thank you.
That.
Rachel.
And Drew, if you're listening, 2 wonderful harvests.
That's absolutely right. Yeah.
Absolutely. 2 wonderful harvests. Okay, so no other questions on the 18 yet. So why don't we take advantage and move on to the 17? So get a swirl, a sniff, and a taste.
Gotta get buzz.
Oh, Joe.
What's that?
Say goodbye.
Oh, sorry. I have I'm gonna escape on this one, and I've got to go get a goalie from soccer practice.
Oh, perfect.
All right.
Good to see everybody.
Cheers.
Here you go.
Cheers.
Okay, Bobby, what are you smelling?
So it's been a while since I've enjoyed this wine. So the fruit just jumps right out. I get a lot of pineapple right there on the nose, on the palate. Just a nice tropical fruit just kind of jumps right out at me. And then followed by a little bit of vanilla that comes right behind it.
Yeah, that's not too shabby.
Mm-hmm.
There is something on the nose. There's a floral that I can't place.
Mhm.
It's not so dominant like a gardenia. It's like the mildest of muted jasmine, or there's something I just don't know what it is. It's, can you put baby powder in wine? That's pretty lovely.
Right.
Linden
I
flower.
don't know what it is.
Baby's
That-
breath.
that-
You know?
That blended floral is linden flower.
Hmm?
It's linden flower.
Linden.
Yeah.
There's
No,
a-
I get that too. There's
I got a concentrated amount of it down in the
Did you
olfactory.
spread it in?
No, you don't put it in. Yeah, now people are going to believe that's what happened.
Here are hay bales lined up last night beside the Canada Vineyard.
Oh wow.
Oh, wow.
Temperature dropped to 28 this morning, but I think they did pretty well. They thought they only lost 5 or 10%
Oh my
of the
goodness.
char. So that's wonderful.
Yeah, it did.
Here's,
I was
here's
not
what-
sure how long it was frozen up there.
that's what the Chardonnay looked like
That's pretty.
yesterday. Yeah, flowering and
Yeah, so it did drop down to the upper 20s for 6 hours. So
yeah.
yeah, I get a little muted jasmine in there. I get that linden flower, boxwood almost.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to be better about my florals. I don't know all of them. I'm just gonna hang out in a floral
Nursery.
shop and
Yeah.
be awkward about smelling all of their flowers for a long time. Don't mind me.
Yeah, make sure you hang out in the right nursery. You want ones with lots of flowers.
Right.
Yeah. You don't want trees. Trees don't have really great scents.
No.
The which?
Magnolias?
Well, magnolias are okay, but that's not magnolia in there.
No, it's not.
No.
Magnolia always reminds me of a good weekend in New Orleans.
Or we can turn bad in New Orleans.
But that's what Sauvignon Blanc.
So, all right, we're moving on from the song over here. So, Doc, what are you getting out of the wine?
Well, it's fun to taste it, even though it's a different vineyard. It's fun to have this the expression of another year in the bottle, and I think it's wonderful. I think it's beautiful. Great fruit and aromatic, and I always get some white lime blossom from this,
Right.
and maybe some jasmine. And on the palate, wonderful complex fruit, vanilla, lychee, maybe.
Yep, a little lychee. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's going in a great direction. It's not there yet, but it's fun to taste it.
Doc, I actually thought you said caliche at first. I was like,
Caliche, yes, I
Caliche,
grew up in West Texas.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry,
Well, curated granitic there.
that was minerality, right?
Yes.
And I may have, so that's the problem. So anyway, I think I said lychee.
Well, we've got, yeah, so I know we used a little bit of American oak in this, but they were 2 to 3 years old. So that was an interesting deal. Trying not to use a lot of new American oak and white wine, but
Right.
and then this was 22% new oak, all of it French. So we had some neutral American and neutral French then in there. Yeah, this is 14.8% alcohol. So it's
That's pretty amazing, isn't it?
yeah, it really is for white wine, and just tasting that smooth.
And to me, this one is not hot. The 2019, I think, is 14.4, if I remember off the top of my head.
Oh, that's right.
And to me, it is hotter. It has a hotter finish than this one that's even higher at 14.8.
Yeah, and then I don't see Doc, but if I remember correctly, I think this was like 3.65, 3.7. It was a higher pH. It's not as low as the other two.
But not much.
Yeah, but it's got more. It's not flabby, but it's got more of a rounded mouth to it.
Mhm.
She's a very lovely, full-figured one.
Yes.
The beautifully Rubenesque wine.
Oh, I like that.
Rubenesque.
Like a little Greek goddess.
Wonderful.
So apparently Bacchus is influencing us a little bit here. So,
Thank you.
what do you think of the wine, Rachel? What are your characters?
You know, I love this wine. I absolutely love this wine. The day that we put it in bottle, I was like, holy cow, this is an amazing, beautiful Chardonnay. And I don't think I'm the first person in this winery to say this may be the best one we've ever made. But I think I said that about the 16 also. Whenever we first put it in bottle, I was like, oh my God, this is a beautiful Chardonnay. But yeah, I think 17, hands down, has
Well, we had
a
such
lot of
yeah, we had such a great year in 17. I don't think we had a bad grape the entire year. It was an amazing year.
It was
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Just absolutely amazing. And you know, did Rachel make this wine as well? Yes, she had a hand in it. Absolutely. Rachel has a hand in every single wine we make. She made the 18 and the 19. She took the Talent Vineyards in hand and made all of the primary decisions on there. So the primary decision on this was she. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, but except it was like, did we get this done? No. I really do think our Chardonnays need to age. And I think it's great that we haven't released the 19 yet, simply because it's going to be in bottle another year before we do really general release it. That 18 is coming into its own. The 17 is beautiful. I truly think the 17's got a few more years before it peaks.
I do too, John. Yeah.
I think this wine at the age of 15 is going to be an outstanding wine, and I think the other two will be able to survive that as well.
Bobby
Yeah, I
had
agree.
a statement.
So
Yeah.
8 years on this wine here. Easy.
Well, at age 15, it'll probably be an outstanding wine. So another 5 years on this, easy, very easy.
Nice.
But I really think
Tell me,
quite a
and
lot.
the rest of the world, what it is about these wines that you think gives them aging potential?
Hubris, strict hubris.
Because we're
Yeah.
funny.
Makes me believe that they're good. So, you know, that's actually a very good question, because it really, we sit there and talk and we batter this off like we can prognosticate and figure it out. Tannin structure, fruit forward, balance,
good acidity, good, right now it has great oxygen management.
Right.
Right.
All of those things. And it's in an inert environment for all practical purposes in that bottle. So if that bottle is properly, and this is the unsaid, if that bottle is properly stored, it should last that long. Maybe I don't always predicate that statement, it'll last 15 years. In this bottle, properly stored, it should see its 15th year in good stead.
Yeah.
Is that a good way of saying it, Doc, or should we?
I agree. No, I agree with it too.
Yeah.
This wine will be exciting in another 10 or 15 years. It'll be amazing. I think it'll be almost honeyed, but at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I noticed on this wine won us a gold medal at the 2021 San Francisco Chronicle Wine Competition.
For the
Yep.
17th.
Yes.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
one right here. So,
How about that?
how about that?
sorry,
Okay.
gold. Yeah. Let's see. Somebody just asked, how long do you keep the barrels? Oldest barrel? We keep them 5
2
years.
weeks.
2 weeks. No, it feels like 2 weeks when you have to write the check for them.
It does. It has that feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, we keep our barrels. We circulate them out after about 5 years, 5 vintage years from the time they're made. Now, some barrels last longer. It depends on the program that we put in them at the time they get used, how long that barrel will be used.
And I think that's
Uh-huh.
a good point, is that previously we were not keeping barrels that long, but now we have other programs where we have found that we need an older, more neutral barrel.
Yep.
For such as a Madeira, or our Madeira, enunciate words. The Malty, some of our aged, our dessert wines
Right.
absolutely benefit from that. And we found that some of our reds benefit from a more neutral wine.
Carignan and the Cinsault both, all neutral. Yeah, and they did very, very well. Dolcetto prefers neutral. Yeah, so we have some pretty nice red wines that really enjoy that. And keeping the barrels longer actually creates a huge issue as far as planning, storage space, infrastructure needed. The longer you keep the barrel, the more space you use. So yeah, and enlighten us on proper storage for bottled wine or barreled wine, because you're referencing bottled wine. Doc, speak to that. If they all can't benefit from having a wine cellar with temperature control, what to you is proper storage?
Well, I think probably the most important thing is not a lot of variation. So it'll last longer at 58 degrees than it will at 78 or 68. But probably you're not trying to let wines age 40 or 50 years to see where they go. So I think it's probably worth the effort just to buy those. I think any place that reasonably protects them from heat and light is fine in this part of the world. Mm-hmm. And what does that mean? That means dark, and it means probably somewhere in the 60s. And I think the wine will age nicely and last a long time like that. It won't last as long as it will at 56, but also you have to have reasonable humidity so the corks don't dry out.
Right.
But I think it's just a consistent temperature. When the temperature goes up and down, the volume increases and decreases. That makes the wine breathe. So that its volume increases and decreases, then oxygen is pulled into the bottle, and that speeds aging. So you don't want to do that. You want it to be a very steady, even temperature, whatever you pick.
Yeah, I think you're right. Even temperature is probably the key. That fluctuating is the key.
Uh-huh.
And keep away
upside down for the corks.
At least on its side. On its
Yeah.
side, for sure. Yeah, I don't think upside down personally, just because then when you open it, you've got all the
disturbed.
debris at the bottom, and in an old wine, that's a headache. So I think just on the side is the way to do it, not inverted, in my opinion.
That's why we have those beautiful devices that take the bottle up and you put the candle under there to slowly
Yes,
use the cork and stuff.
exactly right.
So the idea too, I think Rachel, when we're talking about proper storage, is keeping it away in our houses, keeping it away from water heaters, outside walls. You know, if you can find something like that that's not being disturbed with the best you can, it will last a long time.
You know, and Costco and places like that have terrific bargains on refrigerators that hold what, I don't know, 10 cases, 15 cases, something like that.
Yeah, some of the larger ones, yeah, absolutely.
And you know, and hold it at a very reasonable temperature, 60 or 65. That's the place to put it if you can.
You know, I've used in the past, I've had an old used refrigerator in the garage that I've messed with the thermostat so that I was able to stack things in there. So it was nice. Okay, so now we come to the fun part. Food.
Oh, God.
Yeah, right.
Food, Rachel. Food with the wine.
Crab cakes.
Mhm.
What is it? Carbonara? Yep.
Carbonara. Yeah, that would be very good with this.
Shellfish and crab cakes. Actually, that sounds like an amazing dinner right now.
Okay. How long will it take you to fix?
I bet I got grapes already on it.
I get. So, Bobby, what would you pair with these wines?
Oh, what was that? That cacio e pepe?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Just a nice,
Okay.
just
Yeah, I think
simple
that's perfect.
pasta dish.
Mhm.
Because these wines are just beautiful.
Okay, Rachel, I think I'm gonna have to go to Bobby's for dinner. I'm sorry.
This makes more for me.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, Doc, what do you think? What foods would you
Ah,
try with this?
pour moi, je cherche pour la coquille Saint-Jean sautée avec citron. And,
With citrus? With
oui,
citrus?
oui.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yep. So now would you care to interpret that into Swedish?
I was like, you too, John.
Hey, I understood this with citrus. I mean, give me a break.
Yeah.
I just like that word. No, I love Coquille Saint Jacques with the, you know, we've been in these wonderful restaurants in the Loire. I think the restaurants in the Loire are the best restaurants in France, period.
Mhm.
I'm sure that's outrageous statement, but
No, it's okay. Everybody in Paris now hates you, but that's fine.
one person that I know, yeah. So I love Coquille Saint Jacques with this, and I think any one of these, you know, I'm going back and tasting the 19, and boy, the fruit is emerging in this. Like,
Oh, I know.
it's a little bit like a show.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Open
a
up so
fresh
beautiful.
linen edge to this on the 19.
Yeah.
That is so interesting.
These are, you know, what a treat this is to have these wines, you know, all in the bottle, made by you guys with Aaron Premature. That's rare for me. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Would love this is the highlight of the week to actually get to go back and taste some of our previous work. This is awesome. Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic.
I think we make a good team.
I think we do. I think we can keep this up for a while.
I think so.
Well, here we go.
Okay.
Blue House
Alrighty.
Winery.
So, Bobby, what do we have online next week? What are the wines?
Next week, it is a vertical tasting of our culinarias.
Yes.
That's going to be fun.
What vintages?
15, 16, and 18.
Right. Because somebody drank all the 17.
Those wines are so good.
Yeah, right. We all have to raise our hand on that one. Sorry. Alrighty.
Yeah.
So Culinaria for next week, they can order it online or give us a call.
They can order online, give us a call, pick it up at the winery here. We can make that happen. I don't know if there's a certain limit, so we'll,
Yeah, I do. I do believe. I think we're limited to. I think it was like 50 or 60 packs. I'm not
Okay.
sure because one of those vintages we were quite low on.
right.
Dwindling, I'm watching it every day dwindle.
Yeah,
a
it
little
dwindles.
bit.
So if you want to get on it, do we know what the price is by any chance for?
I have it right here. So we are looking at, let's see. I don't have it right here.
That's okay. Go online to the website if you're interested to join us next week with the Culinaria. For all our
Yes.
Culinaria fans, we hope we see you here. And Charles got his yesterday.
Oh.
No,
I
yeah.
just got the message at 1:50.
Don't open it yet, Charles. Go
Yeah.
slow, go slow.
Keep it for next week. Alrighty, any final words, Doc?
No, but my hat's off to you all for this beautiful production. Thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
You bet. You bet. And cheers to everybody. And I guess
Yeah.
next week, good luck. We'll see you next week. Good health and a great glass of wine. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers.
Cheers.